everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here today. My name is Kelsey Derringer, and I am the Professional Development Coordinator for Bird Brain Technologies. So that means that I get to work with teachers all over the country about incorporating robotics and coding into their curricula. But it's not just me here. I have a couple people joining me for today's teacher talks as well. I have got Matt the Robot here. Oops.
No.
Hello, Matt the Robot. How's it going?
Doing well. How are you doing, Kelsey?
I am doing great. Matt is here to help us pull up some resources that we're going to find. He's our director and producer, and that's right. And so he's going to help us pull up all of the things that we want to take a look at today so that they're ready to go. But it's not just me and Matt here. We are in a Zoom call with a fellow educator as well. This is Marianne. Marianne, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, I'm Marianne, and very excited about learning about bird brain technology. I just got my first premium Hummingbird Kit and unpacked it yesterday and started playing with it with my daughters. It's awesome. I'm excited.
That's great. So you said you teach middle school, right? 6th through 8th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. And are your students already doing any coding or robotics, or what do you do with them? What do you teach?
Well, right now, like we're learning life science and earth science. And we had our first experience doing like I think it's called First League Robotics, where you go to like a competition. So we tried to do that this year in the beginning of the year, but I'm trying to incorporate more robotics into the curriculum of teaching like life science or earth science. So
that's wonderful. Yeah. I know when you had joined last week, you were really interested in doing a robotic hand project, which is actually perfect for today because we are going to be talking about mechanism madness here with Bird Brain. So if you have not seen our webinar from yesterday, we did a really cool webinar yesterday with some students where we were talking about mechanisms. So we talked about winch mechanisms, we made the blinking eyes of a fish, and we did, what else? We did a crank mechanism for the mouth of an animal, and we also did cable mechanisms. So I wonder if Matt could help me by pulling up the video from yesterday, because I want to show you. It'll be on Facebook, but you can find it if you go to this bit.ly link here. This bit.ly link will take you to that Facebook webinar page so that you can watch it. So we'll pull up a couple clips from yesterday so that you can see it, but it was a super fun day yesterday. Did you find the learning that the students did yesterday, because you tuned in and watched, right, Marianne?
I did, definitely, and I really enjoyed watching you have that angular fish with the mechanisms that you just described, and having the kids code the fish themselves and see their reaction. They were very excited about you using their code. So they're sitting at home and you have the angular fish there, and they were able to
eyes turn to angry eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got, sorry, we were pulling up the video and it started, but I've got that anglerfish right here, and it's still got the last code that was loaded onto it. I think it was a student named Justin loaded the last code on here, so we can see what Justin coded it to do. If I remember, yeah, it's got sort of a jumpy little mouth down here, and then when we cover up the light switch or the light sensor, something happens. Might have been someone else's, but so
it had to be exactly 15.
Oh, that's right. They had it coded so that the light sensor had to be exactly 15 for something to happen. So we had some really robust conversations about sensors and thresholds and random numbers and light values, and when you shake the microbit. One of the students coded that. So it was a really fun day yesterday where students were coding. They were using Microbit Classroom to code this fish, and we'd download their code onto there, and they could see how, like, if I go from the top here, they could see we dove into this winch mechanism, which is the motor behind the ear here, this winch mechanism where the eyes could turn and could face different directions, much easier to control it with coding than it is with my fingers, and this crank mechanism, which is a paperclip controlling the mouth. And there is actually a bit.ly link for the page where you can find all of this stuff too. Got it around here somewhere. Oh, it's on the back of this. That's right. I did that very intentionally, and now I remember it. But if you want to check out how to build all of those mechanisms, you can find that on our build page. So there's a bit.ly link for that as well to find all of those cool mechanisms there, so that you and your students can build them as well. So Marianne, you were interested in building a robotic hand with your students. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and where you are now in it?
I just kind of rolled it out last week. And the idea is not to just have a model, but to make the model come alive. And since we're studying structure and movement, I figured the Hummingbird Kit would lend itself well to this idea. And I think you have a hand that you're able to close. I wanted them to be able to do like a peace sign and to pick up a wad of paper. That was their task of what they're expected to do.
Cool. That's great. And so have you made your model yet, or are you working on that?
I just got the kit yesterday, so I'm in the process of making my hand. It's actually downstairs. We're doing research right now on how the hand moves. And I wanted to, on Tuesday, share my model, but hopefully they're making prototypes at home right now as we speak as well.
That's cool. So they're making their own prototypes. And so are you doing the thing that involves like the string and the straws?
Yes.
That model there?
Yeah,
Very cool.
the hot glue gun where you hot glue the straws to the hand.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I tend to keep one of those close by because they're a very popular mechanism for folks to make. I think I've made it into a project, actually, the one that I usually keep close by. But that cable mechanism is really cool too. And I'm going to pull up a part of our webinar yesterday where the students got to play a game, and that game involved some scorpion tails. And the scorpion tails, here it is. There we go. So I'm going to make this full screen and then go over there so everybody can see it. This game, when I push play, you can see the cable mechanisms that are part of the scorpion's tails. Those cable mechanisms are pulling the scorpion tails up. And then there's another claw that came out. And what the kids had to do was they were controlling that little purple bug rover. And they were controlling that and trying to get past all of the things that were trying to get them, as they were the little bug character. So they were using, yesterday I was really pleased with how it turned out, because we used Microbit Classroom to download students' code one at a time onto this, but students could be working simultaneously on the code, and when they were ready they would raise their hand and let me know, and I'd download their code onto this character. And then for the two games we played, the scorpion game and then there was also a spider game that used mechanisms, those one student at a time could play live, and we would give them control of it, but there was like code for the students to be working on in the background, and then a game for them to be interacting with live. The scorpion game, and then if I can find the spider game, here we go.
What's the difference between the Microbit Classroom and is there something called NetBlocks?
NetBlocks? Yeah, that's a good question. So there are three different ways to do, there are three different ways that we've developed, that I won't say developed, there are three different ways that we use in BirdBrain webinars to do remote coding. So there's NetBlocks, there's Zoom remote control, and there's Microbit Classroom. And so the difference, Microbit Classroom is what we used with the fish part yesterday. In that one, and I'll pull up some examples so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So this is our, from yesterday, I'm making a very stupid face, but we can see the kids' code. We pulled it up next to us, and we can go through, and it was playing a song. That's why I'm dancing.
Yeah, I remember.
Y'all should tune into these webinars. They're a hoot. Just saying. But we can go into Microbit Classroom, and we can see all the different students' code that they're doing live. So they can all be working independently on code, and then we can go take a look at it all live. And when we're ready for it, when they tell us they're ready for it, we can, one at a time, download their code onto a microbit and hook it up to the project, and they can see how that affects the project. But there's not like a live connection. It's not like when I press the space key, something's going to happen. It's all self-contained as a project. Versus NetBlocks and Zoom remote control, those are a little bit more similar, because with those, a student on their computer can control in real time a robot in our studio live. So they can use their like arrow keys and control the direction that that little rover is going to spin, is going to go.
But like I think I saw your talk the week before.
Mm-hmm.
So how did the kids not pile up and everybody trying to move the angular fish at the same time then?
So in the regulation method in each one is a little bit different, but in all of the methods there is so how does the teacher control who's controlling a robot, or who decides who's controlling the robot? So in Microbit Classroom, the teacher decides who's controlling the robot because I select their code and I download it onto the robot. I am the gatekeeper of that. In Zoom Remote Control, I am the gatekeeper of that as well because I choose who we give remote control to in the classroom. So I'm the gatekeeper there. In NetsBlocks is kind of the gatekeeper because only one student can connect to it at a time. Multiple students can try to, but only one student will connect to it at a time. And something that Tom Lowers built into the background of the NetsBlocks code system that we're using is that you can say how long a student can play with the robot before they automatically get kicked off.
Yeah.
5 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So NetsBlocks, if multiple people are trying to play at the same time, it's a little bit of King of the Hill. It's like who's quicker at pressing the C key and connecting, but still only one person can connect at a time. So that's something that's true. In some sense, that's true with all three of these methods. There's only one student's code that's going to run at a time. However, with Microbit Classroom, you can have multiple projects up. Each one has its own microbit, and one student can be coding the Pegasus or whatever. One student can be coding the fish, and when they're ready, they're like, hey, can you put my code on the fish? And I'll say, yeah, and I'll put that over here. And another student says, hey, can you put my code over here? And you can do that, right? So like you can kind of, in each of these, the teacher, in Zoom and Microbit Classroom, the teacher is sort of the is the gatekeeper. And in NetsBlocks, the system itself is the gatekeeper.
Okay. Is that what Erin Whitaker did? Because I loved how she had those 3 robots. Which one did you use?
She was using NetsBlocks.
Okay.
So she had made that, and what she was doing too, which if you haven't seen last week's webinar, she explained the system really, really nicely. What she's been doing is she will, at the beginning of every day, start a new YouTube stream. And it's an ongoing YouTube stream. And she'll have a computer set up so that it's looking at her 3 robots. And she sends out the YouTube stream link, hyperlink, and the hyperlink to each of those 3 projects. She'll send that out in an email to her students in the morning, and then they can log in at any time and control those robots for the day.
Wow.
Now, YouTube only has it's either a 12 or a 24 hour, and forgive me, I don't remember how long it is. Is it 12? It has a 12-hour time limit, but that's fine because she starts it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then
That's awesome.
there at 8 o'clock at night. And then the kids can log on at any time. Or the way we've been doing it is live during a Zoom meeting. We have an hour, and however many kids can kind of get to it over that hour, that's fine too. Or there's the way that BirdBrain does it on our remote coding page, which you can find on our birdbraintechnologies.com/robotics at home. There's a remote robots page there, and that remote robots page you can connect to any of our NetsBlocks projects, and there are a couple of little bots, there's a Ferris wheel, there's a gnome, there's a dragon. You can connect to any of those at any time and play with them whenever you want on our website there. So that's actually something that we've had a few requests from teachers now saying, hey, can my students log on and play with the dragon and play with all these remote robots at 11 o'clock? And yeah, totally. That could be an activity that you lead your students through of log on and control one of the, I think there are 6 remote control robots on our thing. So yeah. But your students could, even if you're not ready yet, if you're still learning how NetsBlocks works, that's fine. Have them log on to our site and use our robots.
Okay, good to know. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
oh boy, there it is.
yes, we've got our hand over here now, and what we're working on is we're working on getting that connected to. Oh yeah, we've got to change out some batteries and stuff I think on it, but we're working on getting that connected to Snap so that you at home, Marianne, can control it, can program
Okay,
it.
this is cool.
I have the other two robots
It,
just
Oh,
in case. So
okay.
if you want to,
I'm going to show that off.
well, no, we can control that one on
Your computer.
this computer,
Oh, okay.
this one. So screen share your computer.
Okay, cool. So Matt just hooked up this robot to my computer. So do you want to, we're going to hook it up to Snap and just build just the teensiest bit of code to get you started. But then we'll give you a chance to program this one and just kind of see how these different angles and things are going to work.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it hard to connect a class to Microbit Classroom, like to set that all up?
It's really not. Setting up a session for Microbit Classroom takes me 5 minutes,
Oh, that's great.
10 minutes maybe.
Hmm.
You know, and that is including the little hack that we've figured out of like, if you want to download, so like I've got 5 students, Billy, Bobby, Sally, and Jane. That's only 4, but that's all the names I could think of. Billy, Bobby, Sally, and Jane are all in my Microbit Classroom, and they're all connected. But then I also log in as a student because you can share students' code with each other. And so when I want to download their program onto one of my robots, I'll share Billy's code with Kelsey, the student, and download it on there. It's
Okay.
just super, super easy. And I can also build some code. And if I'm like, we're going to switch from the hand robot to the horse robot or whatever, I can send that code to anybody who's ready for it at any time. Setting up Microbit Classroom, and even like if you just go to Microbit, if you just search Microbit Classroom, it takes you through step by step. It's a 4-step process, and at any point, if you get lost, if you're like, where am I supposed to click? There are these really helpful little things that say show me, and you click on that, and then it circles on the website. You're supposed to click here. Oh, thank you. It's like it's so easy. And from what I understand, it was designed with like classrooms of 30-ish, 30 or fewer in there. But we did have a classroom that we ran with, ooh, there we go, we're starting to program it. We did have a class we ran with over 60 students all logged into one. I don't know that it's designed for that. I don't know if it was glitching out. It wasn't a proper test. It was an on-the-fly classroom where a bunch more people joined than we thought were going to. But it totally worked, and it was
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
I
So,
don't have more than 28 in a room, so I would be okay. Because I teach all day, but I only
yeah,
have 28 at one time in a room,
yeah.
so it would be okay. Yeah.
Microbit Classroom is super cool. You can even, when you're done, you can download a file with all of the kids' code on it. And if you want to pick that classroom back up the next day, you just open that file and all of your students' code is there how you left it.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
It's really easy
Now,
to do.
if we want to look at this video that we're talking, like this live chat today, where
Uh-huh.
would we find that if I wanted to
Uh,
see it again?
Yeah, you'll find it on Facebook. So you'll find it in 2 places actually. You'll find it on the Bird Brain Technologies Facebook page under videos, and you'll also find it on the Bird Brain Technologies YouTube page. It usually first goes to Facebook because that's usually where we stream, and then we upload it to YouTube within a couple days after that. So yeah, you should see both of this week's webinars up on both Facebook and YouTube within a matter of days. But then you can refer your colleagues to that as well if you want to point out anything cool. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure
this
you.
is all set
That's
when you
really
want.
cool how it moves. I need to look at.
Well, it's ready for you, Marianne. Do you want to play?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to share our screen with you. There we go. So we're going to share our screen so that you can see our screen here. And
Okay.
then we're also going to, for the purposes of recording, I'm going to take the mouse for just a second. Oh, Marianne, so we just gave you control. If you click your mouse anywhere on your Zoom screen,
Hmm.
you should be able to control some things now. Can you pause for just 1 second, though? I've got to fix one thing for us. Yep, there we go. One more thing I'm going to fix. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So now, okay, mouse is all yours, Marianne. And let me click back on here. So now when you press 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard, that should control these different fingers.
Let me,
You hear that?
yeah, oh, there you are.
Try again.
Try it again.
Hmm.
I think you
Oh,
might
I
actually.
moved when I moved it. I
Yeah, I
messed
think
something
I
up.
moved it. So here, let me try sharing that one more time. So sorry about
We, we tried something we hadn't tried before, and it didn't work quite like we thought it would. All right.
that. There we
If
go.
I like, if
Okay.
I want to do this with your hand, like just put the two fingers up at least, I guess.
Yeah, so now if you click on your screen, you should have remote control. There you
Okay.
go. So I'm not touching my mouse. There we go. I'm not doing this. This is Marianne.
Right.
So
So
there's one.
one pulls in your pinky.
Sure.
Is
Yep.
that right?
Uh-huh.
And then two, that's the ring finger. Okay. And three.
Uh-huh.
All
Yeah.
right. That's so cool. That is cool.
And
Uh,
I'm gonna adjust one of my cameras so that you can get
can
a
you hit two numbers at once to take down one and two? Or-
let's try it.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
that
can.
works. Very cool. Yeah. I do need to be careful because I
Yeah.
have
Yes, you do.
It's what every teacher watching this was thinking.
Yes, every teacher is like, do I really give students control of the fingers independently on a hand? That's a pedagogical question that you can answer.
very cool. Okay. That's awesome.
Now, do me a favor. It seemed I got the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong. When you first started, you were like, "Oh, one controls the pinky." Were you expecting the number one to control the pointer
Ah,
finger?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
that would make
Well,
sense.
let's change it. Let's you change the code right now. So see where it says like when one is pressed, when two is pressed, three and four. Switch those up. Make them go in the opposite order, and then the fingers will go in an opposite order as well. So the one that's one now, make that one four exactly, and so invert those numbers like that.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That worked. And then I'll switch this up. I'll do that. And see, I like how you do this when you talk about it with people and just to get them to feel comfortable enough to explore, you know? Yeah.
That is our goal. And I think that's something that is actually really cool about remote coding is that it is really easy to
So,
that made me laugh. Sorry.
sorry, I'm still playing as you're
You're
talking
so
to me. I'm
great.
sorry.
It's so great. I'm in love, Marianne. This is so wonderful. But I think that's something that's cool about remote coding is that there is something that's already built here that you can give them some starter code to interact with. And that's something that we have found is one of the things that works the best is rather than having, like we tried one lesson where we kind of had the kids build the code from scratch. But it devolved into like, okay, do this, now do this, now do this, now move that there, no, not there, and change it there, no, don't change that, Ugh. And it just like, it ended up being one of those lessons, and I'm sure we've all been in them where it's like, it's going poorly, and you know it's going poorly, and you don't know how to get out of it.
Right.
You know? And so we taught one of those. It was a private session, so luckily this is well, now it's a public shame, but it was a private shame before. But
But I think everyone can relate to what you're saying.
I think everybody's
I think
had
we've
that.
all been there. And, you know, it's kind of like anything in life. You have to fail a little bit in order to grow from it.
You do. And so the thing we learned from that is when you're doing remote coding and something's already built, it's really nice to give the students a code that already works and for them to then change things. And when it's like when something stops working, they can figure out, oh, I changed this and that changed this about the project. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like rather than like starting from, I don't even know what motors are what and, you know, blah, 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 like, it when you're that's our like best practices that we've found so far. When you've already got a robot that's built, send them some code that already works with it and then give them the opportunity to alter that code.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Now, this is different than Microbit because this is Snap that you're on, correct?
Yep, we are just using the basic Snap program for this one, and we're sharing our screen remotely via Zoom. This is so easy to set up. You saw how quickly Matt did it. From the time that we got this robot plugged in to the time that he went back there, I mean, he's a really good coder too. So
Right.
it was just like, it was so quick for him to set up. It's so quick for us to share our screen. Programming remotely with Zoom, super quick, super easy. You as a teacher do not have to be an expert at making code, at parsing code, at figuring out anything. It's really, really easy for anybody to pick up and do this. And you can do it with any language. So we're using Snap right now, but you could do this with Make Code. You could do this with Python. You could
Okay.
do this with JavaScript, or Snap or whatever.
How did he make it possible for me to get access to his Snap?
That's a feature of Zoom. So Zoom has screen sharing, which I'm sure we've all experienced in positive ways and perhaps some of us in negative ways as well. But it's got screen sharing. And so we, as the host, we can give ourselves ability to screen share and not give anyone else the ability to screen share, which is kind of cool and sneaky. And so we can share our screen so that you can see the Snap code, as you can see all like over here, I guess. But then once you share your screen, up at the top, there's a thing that says remote control, and it has a little icon of a mouse. And so you can give remote control to anybody else on the Zoom call, provided they're on a laptop or an iPad, I believe. Do iPads do remote control?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
iPads do remote control and laptops do remote control, but for some reason Zoom does not recognize Chromebooks. So if there are any of your students who are logged in with Chromebooks, they can't do remote coding via Zoom.
All right. And I'm using Google Meet, and they all have Chromebooks. So
Yeah.
I probably would have to do the micro-bit classroom then, right?
Yeah, you'd either do Microbit Classroom or NetsBlocks. Both of those would work with that setup.
Very cool. Can you zoom into the hand again and talk a little bit about how you structured that hand?
Yeah, we're gonna stop the screen share here and then zoom into this hand a little bit. All right, we're gonna stop our share. Okay, so why don't I'll go from my top down here so we can kind of dive into it a little bit. So, and I'm gonna put at the bottom or on the side of my screen somewhere here, I'm gonna put this build page, because everything that I'm about to talk about and about to show you, you can find in tutorials on this build page, and maybe Matt will pull up that build page so we can take a look at that tutorial in just a second. So the way that this works, and I'll start from the bottom. Started from the bottom. Now we're here. Actually, I'm going to start from the top, and then we'll go there. Okay. Get my thing out of my way. So the way a basic cable mechanism works, and you don't need a robot to do this. This is just a basic cable mechanism. You attach your string to the top of your jointed thing. So I've got a top joint, a second joint, a third joint, right? And then each of the joints, except for the top one is where the string is connected.
Okay.
All of the joints below the top joint have straws on it. And the straws are what change sort of like the direction of the movement. So to simplify that a little bit, we were kind of obsessed with scorpions a couple weeks ago. Here's an example of a non-robotic cable mechanism. So this one, the string comes out through the bottom of the scorpion, and when I pull it, you can see that the scorpion's tail curls up, like so. So this is a cable mechanism. The top section, the very teeny tiny top section up here, doesn't have a straw. That's what's got the stinger on it. But every section below that has a straw. Or if you don't have straws, you can also just like tape a piece of cardboard over it and make a little tent. That works well too. So the straw is what guides the string. And then this project, the Scorpion project, doesn't have this problem because this project is designed to be used like flat like this, because this is the angle that it's meant to be looked at. But the hand has a problem with getting tired. And I'll go back to my close-up view over here to show you what I mean. This hand, because it's designed not to be flat like this, but stand up like this, the cardboard occasionally gets tired. So after a while of pulling down and up and down and up, it'll get tired, and that's what has happened to this middle finger a little bit here. It's lost some of the spring in its step. And so the way we get it to... What's that?
Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, you know, if one finger has to be not super prominent, let's choose the one. But on the back here, we've attached a rubber band.
Okay.
right? And then I'll go back to my top down so we can see that a little bit better. You can see the back of it. But we've attached a rubber band onto the back of all of the fingers, except for the middle finger, because it was like getting too tight and it was turning it around. It was doing funny things. We got to do a little troubleshooting with that middle finger. But this one, you can see the rubber band goes through the little slit we cut at the top, and it also goes through the middle of the hand. And on either side, we just put a paper clip through it. So paper clip on either side, paper clip on either side. And that's what's holding the rubber band in place. I'll move that so you can see it better. So the rubber band is going through these little holes, and then if I zoom in on like the paper clips in the palm here, you can see that they're attached with rubber bands. Like the rubber band and the paper clip go through the cardboard, and then the paper clip acts as sort of like a stopper, almost, right? And so, oops, I'll zoom back out. There we go. So then if I come back out here, those are just basic cable mechanisms. Nothing robotic about this so far, just mechanical. But when we get down to the bottom here, and I'll zoom back in on this, when we get down to the bottom here, this is the part that becomes an actual like robot, because these are the motors here. So these motors, as they spin, and I'm going to disconnect this from power so that I can turn these. As these motors spin, and this one will go in like this. As they spin, they pull on the string, and then when they pull on the string, that is what controls the hand, like so.
Yeah.
And then just to look at how these motors are connected, I'll look at it from the side so you can see that, because these motors, they use this basic technique that we have on our website about how to insert a motor into a piece of cardboard. You just cut a little hole. You can even see the lines that he drew. Yep, cut a little hole there. And then one other piece of engineering that's added on here is we put some spacers in there so that the popsicle sticks don't run into each other and that the strings don't get tangled. So there's a couple extra pieces of cardboard like holding it up off the basic layer there so that the strings don't get all tangled.
That's a good point.
Some pretty good engineering from Matt there.
How do you not damage your motors in case you want to use them again on another project? Like,
Yeah.
Did you glue those? Did you hot glue gun those tongue depressors that I see? Are they tongue depressors? I don't know.
This is probably the most common question that I get from teachers is like, is it really okay to use hot glue? And the answer is yeah, because most of the time hot glue just peels right off of all of the motors. They're pretty robust, they're industry standard, and when you're done, the hot glue will just peel right off of them. You can also cover the outside of your motor, like the black part, or if you've got a micro servo, the blue part, you can cover that with some masking tape, and then it peels off even easier. But I'll say this too, even if the hot glue doesn't come off all the way, I think that's okay, because you're just going to make something with it again. Like, the idea of a lot of these projects is like, how can you make something that's not metal, like something that's cardboard or craft supplies, look like a robot? Like, you're kind of supposed to hide the motors. You know, you're kind of supposed to hide the wires. So, like, if the motors start looking real hot gluey, that's okay. You're just gonna put more hot glue on it. You know, some teachers have a problem with that. Like, they want their stuff to look really nice, and I totally understand that. But other teachers, like the Brooklyn Robot Foundry in New York City, when they get their motors, the first thing they have their kids do is take box cutters or something, I forget what, and they score the sides of the motor. They like rough up the sides of the motor so that it holds hot glue better.
Wow, good to know.
Like, they destroy it because they're just like, yeah, we're making stuff with it. Like, the point of this thing is to stick where we told it to stick. And then when they tear it off, a lot of times it'll tear the cardboard with it. But they're like, man, that's fine. We'll cut off the cardboard and just stick it on something else, you know?
That's
so
cool.
It kind of depends on the aesthetic and the feeling of your classroom. Like, if you're okay with a little hot glue sometimes, like, just hot glue right on there. If you're not, you can protect it with some masking tape.
And is this the rotational motor that I'm looking at? Like, you know how there's two different kinds of motors?
Yeah. There's the rotation that goes continuously, and then there's the position that goes from 0 to 180. This one, this project's made with the position servo,
Hmm.
because we want it to very precisely go from straight up and down to 90 degrees or 30 degrees or 120 or whatever. We want that precise angle there.
Hmm.
So for this project and for a lot of mechanisms, the position servo is a really good fit for that because you want some kind of precision there. The thing that you can be precise about with the rotation servos is speed, not position. So, yeah. I did want to share with everybody really quick where this link will take you to. We were talking about this build page, and if you go to this bit.ly link, here's where that takes you to our build page. I'll go back there. So the build page has these mechanisms that we used in yesterday's webinar. It's got some cool, simple robots. It's even got these hacks that we talked about, like how did she get those motors into the front of that box for the hand? Well, here's our quick tutorial on how to do that. You just trace around the outside of your motor, and you could see the lines on the hand. You could see where Matt traced around the motors. You take a blade and you cut that out. You put the motor in wires first, and those little black wings just kind of keep it in place. So that's exactly what Matt did on the front of this robot right here. So all of those like building hacks and mechanism tutorials and stuff like that, those all exist on the build page, which you can get to from this bit.ly link. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. Yeah.
And can I see in the back of the hand how the hummingbird is actually, is it an
Yeah.
Arduino or what do you, it's just hummingbird, right?
Yeah, it's the Hummingbird. The old version of the Hummingbird used to have an Arduino as its like microcontroller, but the new version of the Hummingbird has the microbit. This is actually what this is like the brains of the operation. If we were going to make an analogy of parts of the body, like the microbit is perhaps the brain, the Hummingbird is like the spinal cord, and the motors and lights are the appendages. That is a loose metaphor, but it kind of works.
Oh,
But yeah, so all those motors in there, they're just connected 1, 2, 3, 4 to that Hummingbird, and then we hot glued the other thing that I love about the new Hummingbird. It's not new anymore. The current Hummingbird is that it's got a base on it now. This like orange or teal or purple base, so you can actually hot glue it to things. Or I like to use Velcro. I'll put some Velcro on the back of all of them, and then they can Velcro it. They can use the opposite kind of Velcro and Velcro it to the back of their projects and stuff. I love using Velcro. Matt likes hot glue, but that's okay.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's
Yeah. Do you have other questions about thinking through, like, for example, your hand project, thinking through teaching that at home? When you think about, okay, I'm going to have a robot hand at my house, and my students are going to program it. Do you have a preference at this point of, do you think you want to use Microbit Classroom? Do you want to use, since you're on Google Meets and your kids have Chromebooks, then the Zoom remote coding isn't a thing, or NetsBlocks. So do you have a preference between Microbit Classroom and NetsBlocks?
I'm interested in both of them, and I would like to explore both angles because that's the type of person I am. Like I'll like you, plan A, plan B,
Yeah.
to try them for both.
Well, a good place to start is probably just heading to this part of our website here, this Robotics at Home page, and just trying out the remote robots that are there so that you can see what that NetsBlocks interaction is like. And then going to Microbit Classroom and trying that out too, and just trying each one of those. I think they both have their strengths, and their limitations. And actually, there is a bit.ly link that I created, and I don't remember what it was or where I wrote it down.
I think as I process what you're saying, I would, during my Google Meet, I would probably do the Microbit Classroom.
Mm.
And then there's a select few of kids in my head that I could see wanting to go program the ones that you've already set up. Do you know what I'm
Sure,
saying?
through NetsBlocks, yeah.
I would differentiate learning then in that way.
I think that sounds really, really smart, Marianne. I'm really excited for this project.
Yeah.
When are you planning on, like, when do you want to do it?
Well, I think starting Tuesday, I'm curious. I always like them to build without me saying anything because I don't want to disrupt their creativity or their curiosity.
Yeah.
And then I want to come together and I have set up a learning platform where they've made videos for me over the next few days so I can see what they've been doing and what they've been thinking. And then Tuesday, that's where we pull out our share, them
Cool.
sharing first, me sharing last.
Cool.
So that's my thought. And then by the end of the week, I would like it to be finished. So by Friday of next week,
Cool.
I would like the hands to be, you know, all
Yeah.
formed and ready to go.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
That's so exciting.
the plan.
That's so, so exciting.
It is. It really is. And I think they're excited about it too, So
Hmm.
that's what makes it even better. I
Yeah.
really appreciate the support. It's exceptional, your support. And um, I love the simplicity of the hummingbird. And I'm a beginner in all this. And I feel like it's something that I can do, which is great that I'm the learner, because then I know that my kids that maybe feel apprehensive about this, I know what it feels like. And I know that they'll be able to pull it together and achieve something with it. So that's pretty exciting. Thank you.
That means a lot. Like, just I feel that one of the things that I love about code.org is they call teachers lead learners. And I think a lot of teachers, when they're starting out with this whole like coding and robotics thing, they feel that they have to be experts before they can engage their students. I've got to know all the answers that to the questions that my students might ask. And I think that that is really a limitation because there's so much to know about computer science and robotics. I do not know everything about computer science and robotics. I am not a computer scientist or a roboticist. I am a computer science and robotics educator of educators.
I agree.
And I really applaud teachers like you, Marianne, who are just like, I'm excited. I want to show my students that I am also learning, even the way that you're doing your classes on Fridays of like, they share what they're working on, I share what I'm working on. Like you make yourself a learner as well, and I know that your students must appreciate that.
They definitely,
So
yeah,
kudos. And
we grow together. We really do.
yeah,
And I think it's a great place to be. So, and it makes every day different. And that's why I love this job so much. So,
yeah. That rut that sometimes we get into of like teaching the same thing every year, like it can, if you let your students lead you, they're not going to take you to the same place every year.
that's
They're
true.
different, weird little people who have weird ideas, and they'll surprise you. You
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So,
For
well,
sure.
this was really great, Marianne. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Anybody out there, if you want to ask any questions or contact us, there's a couple ways to do that. You can reach out to us on social media, Twitter or Instagram or Facebook at BirdBrainTech or hashtag Hummingbird Kit, either with pictures and videos of what you and your students are up to with our stuff, or questions, comments, etc. Encouragement for Marianne. I'm sure she would love that too. We'd pass that on. Or you can always reach out to us via email, info@birdbraintechnologies.com, with any questions you might have about coding, teaching, ordering, etc. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And thank you so much, Marianne. This was really great.
Thank you. I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to see what you make on social media. On Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can tag @BirdBrainTech or hashtag HummingbirdKit, or you can even tag me. If you have any questions, be sure to email us, info@birdbraintechnologies.com. We can answer questions about purchasing, about learning, about teaching, and about professional development. If you haven't been there yet, be sure to visit our Robotics at Home page. There you can purchase a kit for yourself, learn how to use it, and even join one of our upcoming webinars. Until we see you in class, thanks for watching from everyone at BirdBrain Technologies.